Hello and welcome to the Brick Cave Media Podcast. My name is Patrick Hare, author of Corporate Boilerplate Vinegar from Brick Cave Books. The Brick Cave Podcast is brought to you by the BC Book Club, Brick Cave Media's community portal for readers that love Brick Cave books and authors. You can join today and be a part of the Brick Cave story at Brick Cave Media's new website, brickcave.media.
And I'm your other poet and co-host for tonight. My name is Marcus Campbell, author of My Identity as a Stereotypical Side Character, also from Brick Cave Books. We're here tonight in the Brick Cave studio, located in the Brick Cave office, right here in beautiful downtown Mesa, Arizona. This might be one of 12 times that you've heard it referred to as beautiful downtown Mesa, Arizona, but we're sticking to it. So today we're going to talk about the TusCon Sci-Fi Festival, or Con, that's coming up this weekend. We're also going to touch on the Mesa Book Festival coming up at Benedictine University on December 17th. And we're going to touch on poetry in 2022. What is it? We might also talk the new Lord of the Rings show, Game of Thrones, stuff that matters.
Stuff that's on my viewing list that I haven't seen.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen much.
Okay, because that means I can't spoil anything, which...
Well, I have a long list of shows that I'd like to see, and it's a several-year backlog.
Okay.
I have a poem about that, too. But anyway. So let's start with TusCon Sci-Fi Con, or is it TusCon or TusCon? TusCon. TusCon. What is it? I've never been there.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, it's a science fiction and fantasy convention. I believe there's a little bit of horror and poetry splashed in there as well. Good old genre stuff down in Tucson, Arizona. A bunch of Brick Cave Media authors will be down there selling books, doing a bunch of panels. I think we're hosting the party on Friday night as well, so that should be an absolute blast. We got a lot going on. Brick Cave is kind of like we're like a little cottage publisher over there, so we should be able to raid the place and have some fun.
So we're the kid at the party that buys the drinks and has the house because his parents left.
Exactly. So we're the cool kid this time. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. Are you going to be on any panels while you're down there?
I just looked. I'm going to be on 3 panels, although one of those panels I won't be there for, so I'm hoping to get that one rescheduled, or at least not have me on it, because unless I come in by telephone or something, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I would say in the age of Zoom we could get it done, but in the middle of the desert, it's probably not going to be.
No, that's the should art be triggering one, because I'm going to be out on Saturday, because I'm going to see Elton John. So he doesn't come along. He doesn't have that many farewell tours people.
Yeah.
He's not like the Who have had farewell tours since 1982. He's not like Cher, who probably has a couple good farewell tours. She's also been retiring since the 1980s. Yeah.
Or Kiss. Kiss always keeps coming back. Same with Ozzy. Yeah. Ozzy keeps coming back too. He'll crawl away, then crawl back out, and crawl away, then crawl back out. Yeah, the eternal goodbye tour. But I'm glad you're prioritizing seeing Elton. I feel like there are some things that you just need to see in person. That's got to be one of them. Have you seen him before?
I've seen him 2 times before. This time we're taking the kids. So, yes, because my kids know a lot of classic rock.
Okay.
And so they will know all the songs. Right, and there was an episode of Bob the Builder where Elton John wrote a song. He wrote Crocodile Rock, and of course it's how he became famous. It's the Elton John origin story in the Bob the Builder universe.
Okay. That's
why the kids like him.
So your kids are fans then?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I thought maybe you were bringing them to the concert to try to make them fans, but they're already fans.
No, that's the worst thing to do. It's always a waste of money to try to make somebody a fan by bringing them to a concert.
Oh, that's true. Well, since you might miss that panel on Should Art Be Triggering, why don't we talk about it right now while we're here? Okay. Should art be triggering?
I would say it shouldn't necessarily be deliberately triggering, but at the same time, I'm of the opinion that you can't avoid triggers in life, and you don't know what people's triggers really are. It can be the strangest things. It can be a song. It can be a reference to something. It could be even a certain word that triggers somebody. So it's really hard in art to avoid all those triggers. And if you're going to address a topic like abuse, you're going to have to worry. I mean, you're going to have to be concerned about triggering people, so you don't want to really, I don't know. You don't want to go out of your way to try and trigger somebody, but at the same time, you can't walk on eggshells your whole life if you want to address something and get change made.
Yeah.
or make change. Yes.
Yeah. I think I would not necessarily push back, but I would push back a little bit and say that I think it is actually okay to trigger people on purpose. I would venture to say that a lot of good art, I wish I'd had the time to come up with great examples for this conversation, has been stuff that has endeavored to trigger people on purpose, almost in the same way that a protest would, where it's trying to bring up explicit emotions by bombarding someone with images or information that they might not necessarily want. How do you feel about that?
I can see that. I guess there's the difference between provoking somebody to an opinion or showing them, basically getting them, out of their safe space or whatever, in the sense that their safe space is not a good place for everybody else. If you want to provoke change, you have to open people's eyes. It's hard to use an example, but if people have been victims of violence or something like that, I wouldn't trigger them with a lot of imagery of violence necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on what do we consider a trigger would be the next thing, because some of it is stuff you need to know. I mean, if you have a protest, or if you want to basically have that free speech where you're letting people know that there's a problem and it needs to be fixed, or that they should care about it, I mean, you're going to be showing them some imagery or telling them some things that are very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. And there's almost never a good time to confront the uncomfortable.
Right.
Which is why it remains unconfronted and uncomfortable. So that there's that interesting roadblock. I also think there's a roadblock in that when we start to meter our speech as artists, our art gets very, very difficult to make. Like expressing yourself in artistic form is already really difficult. It's already hard to be authentic and genuine without worrying about what other people might think or how a piece may be perceived. And if we start writing with the thought in mind of how will this writing be perceived, we stop becoming writers who are emoting and expressing, and we almost start becoming like long form marketers. And I don't know that that's I don't know that that's necessarily a position that I want to be in, where as I'm writing and expressing myself, I have to constantly consider how different demos might feel about something. Right? Because a trigger is definitely not universal. Like, one person's trigger definitely doesn't apply to the other 6 billion people. So you would almost have to break it down into demos. And then which poems... I have this problem with my book when I go into coffee shops with it. It almost becomes like this game where I have to make a set list of like, okay, when I walk in, I'm like, okay, it's majority this audience. So which poems do I dodge? Because I just don't want static. Because I genuinely don't want static, and I definitely don't want it at some random coffee shop. So it then becomes a thing where I'm almost doing the opposite, where I write authentically, but then when I go to perform, I'm very careful to try to not trigger. So it's an interesting balance.
I guess you are concerned about the triggering then.
No. I definitely am. I'm concerned with it as a matter of etiquette, not as a matter of art.
Oh, okay. So there's stuff that I've written that I've never read anywhere before, because it's not like I'm insulting people, but people might take it the wrong way.
Yeah, and so I have a poem called "A Picture's Worth for Floyd." It's like 1,000 words that I wrote for George Floyd. I don't think it's appropriate to read. Like even though it was genuine expression, I don't think that people would get much out of whatever triggers I might bring up for people. Like the point of the poem, it doesn't necessarily drive home a specific point. It's supposed to be kind of cathartic. For me personally, and maybe for others, but it's also supposed to feel kind of claustrophobic. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good position to intentionally put people in a reading. So I don't read it as a matter of etiquette, just kind of to be kind to people. But I wouldn't want to exist in a paradigm for writing where I couldn't write it. And I think that would suck. I don't think that we should strive for that. I think that would be pretty terrible. Personally.
I can see that.
Personally. I think that would be pretty terrible. What other panels are you going to be on while you're down there?
Oh, that's a very good question, and I have the schedule, or I had the schedule a minute ago. Using the past to inform the future, writing fresh fiction from existing source material. I write brief poems that are based on reality, so
yeah,
that is kind of using the past. First line, first paragraph, hooking the reader, and before that, the editor. Okay, that's right. So I guess I would say how to hook people, I've done it before. You just make a good line.
Make that opening matter.
Exactly.
I think I'm going to be...